It's the Wishbone, and 3, 2, and 1. It's the Wishbone, the old guys podcast. And there's nothing more than what old guys like to do than just bitch and moan and complain about everything going on in the world. G-Rizen's complaining about a link not working, so he can't get in here right now. Everybody else's links work, not G-Rizen. Probably gave him edibles and it doesn't work. But whatever. Uncle T and JT are here. I'm Holden. Hey, Uncle T, talk to me, buddy. You had some serious stuff going on. You got dogs on the loose and cars break. What's happening, pal?
Yeah, it was a pretty solid day all the way up until about 20 minutes ago. And, you know, we grinded the baseball and got the playbook done, got our winners in for baseball in about 10 minutes. I don't know, about 20 minutes ago now. My wife's at my daughter's volleyball game, calls me and says she got out of the gym after the game and said that her car won't start. So you guys know how that goes. She's about 20, 25 minutes away and, you know, tried to scramble. My boys went out to scoop her up and figure it out, and they leave the dog outside. So anyway, I'm here, Holden, and we're gonna talk with JT here, and we're gonna find out, pick some winners for this coming week, and maybe G-Rizen will grace us with his presence.
G-Rizen, again, he's complaining. He's like, I can't get in. The link doesn't work. I'm like, it worked for the other two guys. So, you know, if you don't show up, you don't show up. We'll just end up ripping you. Hello, JT Hayes. Where are you today? You're in a hotel. Looks like one that, you know, if you were to get a prostitute, you would probably go in. What's up, JT? Where are you? In a house
I'm
of
not
prostitutes?
a hotel. I'm in a beach house, and I'm in Garden City, South Carolina. It's been an eventful week already. It's been a great week at the beach here, a family vacation with my wife's parents and her sisters, and just having a lot of fun. And even on Sunday for opening day, I went out to a place and got an interesting story to talk about when we get into the recap of Sunday, but always good to be with you and Uncle T and maybe G-Rizen if he can get his ass in here on a Tuesday night.
0% chance he figures this out. And I'm not restarting this and getting him a new link. It's just, you know, everybody else works.
We're live.
That's life, man. That's life. Let me see what you think about this, Uncle T. Big T was in the Discord the other day, and he said he had sex 3 times in one day with his wife. Now, this is your nephew. How does it make you feel when he talks about such things?
He told you what? Over the weekend?
Yeah, 3 times in one day.
Oh, well, in Philly, I know he would. They were kidless in Philadelphia, so I know it was like a little secret weekend with the wife. And hey, you know, I'm not gonna throw around, you know, rumors or innuendos or even good, honest, you know, rumors or stories or truths on this pod, because I'm going to be with him all weekend. Mangone's going to be flying in or driving by on Thursday. He's going to spend the next 4 days with me and Big T. Rubio is going to come up from Louisville. We're going to play some golf Friday. So no, Holden, I'm not going to air out any of his, you know.
This is not airing it out. All I ask you is if it makes you uncomfortable. Does it make you uncomfortable?
It doesn't make me uncomfortable.
Okay.
Put it this way. I will say this. When it comes to that topic, Holden.
Yes.
Big T generally doesn't lie. I will give him that. I mean, he's a pretty straight up shooter when it comes to the bench time. So I'm going to leave it at this. If he said that to you, pretty damn good chance it was true, Holden.
No, I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm just saying it's kind of weird that it's your nephew and you don't mind listening to him talk about, you know, banging your.
I mean, it wasn't like I was in the damn room, Holden. It wasn't like I was doing video or anything. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Excuse me?
Well, I mean, hell, you're kind of wanting me to put me in the room. Hell, I don't care what he does. He's a grown man.
Yeah, but all right.
Hey,
what happened to you?
You guys sound like a bunch of cackling old hens.
What happened to you, dumb?
I don't know. You sent me the wrong link, ding
Bullshit.
dong.
I sent you the same fucking link the other two guys had. They got in the room on time. You're the one. You're the one.
Hey, I'm not gonna blame. I'm not gonna tell on myself. I gotta blame you.
What'd you do? What'd you do wrong?
I don't know. I think I clicked the link you sent me last week and it was different. Everybody else's link's always the fucking same. You know, hey, what can you do?
What's going on, G-Rizen? How did the football weekend go for you? Any crazy stories happen? Have you been arrested? What's going on?
No, but I need to get me a fancy ass hat like you got. But anyway, football, you know, it was kind of tilting because the whole
me or him, G-Rizen, his hat or my hat?
Uncle T.
I mean, That's a nice looking hat though, Uncle T. I'll give you that. Nice little fishing hat,
Really?
the old skipper hat. That's a skipper hat there.
Yeah. Looks like he was born in fucking 1912.
It's my golf bucket hat. Don't make fun of it.
No, but I was tilted because of Mostert. I'm sure, a lot of people were. When I saw Trey Sermon wasn't going to play, of course, I lock in Mostert. And then he gets hurt, and then you're praying for min cash. But I had Kyler Murray, Hopkins. I had A.J. Brown, Kelsey, Corey Davis. So those guys saved me. But, it could have been a really, really nice day if I would have went with my original thought and I was going to try to jam in Mixon. But, I got sucked in by that whirlwind when I heard Sermon was going to be out. And, I mean, at 6,100, I was trying to be a little different and pay up at tight end and kind of fade some of them higher price backs. But, bit me in the ass this week. It's so frustrating because you know what? I think on that Morning Wood show, I'd be damned. I think if one of the listeners actually said, because Big T was talking about Mostert, he said he'll get hurt on the first drive, and I'd be damned if it didn't happen. Just a bite in the ass. But
he's done for the year.
Yeah, I heard that. So, now that backfield's just going to be another team kind of backfield. You just never know whether you're going to really get any consistency. I think that's going to be, a problem there, with Mitchell, Hasty, and then, you're going to have Sermon coming through. So that's going to be interesting there to see what happens. But yeah, that was the only tilting thing. Other than that, it was a good day. It was a really nice day. We sat around in the garage, had some safety meetings, drank some Modelo's, had a few buddies over. We were hooting and hollering about some bets, and we had a good time. So best thing is we got 17 more to go.
Yes, we do. And then let me just tell you about Elijah Mitchell here, because DraftKings, I got my ass kicked. FanDuel, and I don't play FanDuel unless it's football season, basically. A little bit in football season, but Elijah Mitchell. So this is what happened on the Up to Lock show. We're doing the show. JSU posts his core. It has Hasty and Mostert. He ends up changing his core back to what it was because he didn't want to do the double running back. I saw a report on the internets from Cam Inman, and anybody listening to this, if you're with Run Pure Sports, if you're on Twitter, go follow Cam. I don't know if he's going to have this every single week, but he's the Niners beat reporter. I think with The Athletic, he might be with the Mercury News, one of the two.
Holden, is this going to be like a humble brag section for you?
No, because
I feel like you're getting ready to pat yourself on the back. But
can I put you on timeout? How do I do that?
No, you can't do that. You don't have that kind of authority. Go ahead. I'll let you.
Oh, here. Hey, Uncle T, what's up, buddy? How are you? He's fucking muted is what he is. Ha, 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 ha. Look who has the power now, jabroni. Hold on, let me unmute him. All right. You asked to unmute. Hey, I've asked you to unmute, okay, buddy? Unmute yourself. Yeah, you can't. I think
what if I want to stay on mute?
I have that power now.
Oh no.
I am omnipotent.
We'll fix that between now and next week.
And this is more of a watch the Up to Lock show and follow Cam Inman too, because Inman, I read the tweet on the air. Ayuk is going to play behind Scherfeld today, and Mitchell is number 2 on the depth chart ahead of Hasty, and then Sermon they're not even sold on Sermon. So I did play Mitchell. He had that little, he was 0.1% or whatever. It actually helped me cash. I did not, win big. At least it was a little more than I'm in cash, and it was kind of fun having that. And this is the other one I'll say to you. Following the news Up to Lock. Don't just stop. Don't just stop and build your lineups. Watch the Up to Lock show. Tambo's terrific. We got AP on the show. JJ stops by, so there's a little plug for that. But JT Hayes is now texting someone. I got to get him back in the show. It's been too long since he talked. Did you meet somebody that you think is very special that we think is not really that important of a person in real life?
I mean, I hope you don't think that when I start talking about him. So I went out to, I'm down here in Garden City, South Carolina, as I mentioned, with the family. And it was a beautiful beach day on Sunday. They all were out the beach. And I was like the degenerate that I am. And I went out to find the NFL Sunday ticket package, which I did at a place called Old Chicago. And I ended up sitting next to the guy who runs all these restaurants, my buddy Ryan. Told him about our pod, told him about Run Pure Sports. But here's what he did. So obviously Mostert gets hurt. The Falcons looked absolutely pathetically unprepared. and just terrible on Sunday. So I end up watching some of these other games. And he's actually had the DraftKings app open, had the FanDuel app open. He's playing head-to-head with some of the people from Buffalo. He's a Steelers fan, and he's up top 100 in the $5 millie. And I said, wow, that's pretty goddamn good even for that early in the day. And his lineup, he had a Kyler and Hopkins stack. He had Corey Davis, who ended up doing pretty well. He had the Steelers defense, which I don't think anybody played, Steelers on the road. And G-Rizen, you'll appreciate this, because I think most of us just crossed out completely Detroit. We said Jared Goff is not good. This team is not going to be good. San Francisco is pretty good. And turns out San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan is who we thought he was. He's not a very good coach. He spent the last couple of years trying to get back what he didn't do in the Super Bowl, which was when he should have run the ball and run the clock out. And you had all these depth chart things happening on Sunday morning. My man had DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson.
How?
And
Hawkinson, I guess, with Swift?
And here was his logic. And I love the logic. The logic was, hey, who else is going to catch the ball on this team? Who else? And I said, but San Francisco's defense is pilot. And he's like, well, they're on the road. And then he says it's funny because people don't look at ownership projections. Sometimes we get a little bit wrapped around the axle here with, guy's going to be highly owned. And he goes, well, these guys have to be about 20. I go, nobody played those guys. And he looks at the ownership and he's like, wow. I mean, Hawkinson was 2%. Swift was under 1%. Just something to think about in terms of, and that's someone who he plays this for fun and he doesn't consume content, and pretty goddamn amazing day for him. He had a pretty good day. A really cool guy. He runs the Old Chicago when you're in the mood for a nice deep dish pizza, a good meal. The food was great there. And the flapjack. So when you get up in the morning, you need something to break the fast, so to speak, here in Garden City, South Carolina. They're all throughout the Carolinas. Good guy. I told him I was going to send him a link to this podcast, and who knows? We'll see him maybe in Discord here. But interesting perspectives there on how we look at different teams and things like that. Certainly a number of teams shocked this weekend. The Houston Texans, one of those teams. The Bengals, Uncle T, your Bengals in Cincinnati there. So pretty interesting week there. And, of course, my Falcons shocked in the absolute worst way. People in the preseason around Atlanta were saying this is going to be great. Art Smith is an offensive genius. He wasn't showing anything in the preseason. Turns out he wasn't showing anything because he really didn't know what to do. And they looked woefully unprepared, could not protect Matt Ryan. Encouraged a little bit by at least 8 targets for Kyle Pitts, but just a disastrous performance, 32-6 to the Eagles of all teams. So interesting Sunday, as they always are, week 1.
All right, if you're watching this on YouTube, we had a lot of people watch on YouTube last week. Just hit the like button so we keep moving up, and I don't know, we can keep doing this. Not like we would stop if you didn't hit the like button. Just hit the goddamn like button. And then the other thing here is to go into Norm Macdonald, okay? And then we'll talk about teams we like in particular. I feel like G-Rizen was a Norm Macdonald fan. I've not talked to G-Rizen. He couldn't figure out how to open up his computer. Uncle T, JT is definitely a Norm Macdonald fan. He died. He's only 61 too. I mean, we've joked that
no idea who you're talking about.
You got to be shitting me.
Norm Macdonald?
If he saw his face, he would.
Poker player?
He was a poker player.
He had played poker at one time. He was only the weekend anchor on Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update for most of my childhood. And Uncle T, you're a couple of years older than I am. I mean, this is around the same time. You should have been watching Saturday Night Live, looking to stay up and hear the adult language when you were a child, but maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, listen. So a couple things. First off, JT brings up flapjacks. I haven't heard flapjacks reference in a minute. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like the reference. I'm just saying I haven't heard that in quite a long time. So I haven't eaten.
It's the name of the restaurant.
I like it.
The restaurant unplugged.
No, I love it. I think it's great. I'm just saying it got me hungry. I haven't eaten yet today, and then I just happened to think, because I'm a pretty smart fella, a week from tonight we're going to record this podcast. Uncle T's going to have a birthday next Tuesday. You guys I need something special from all three of you guys next Tuesday for Uncle T's birthday. Oh, well, you give me the
You can't
thumbs
beg
down for.
people. You can't beg people to
Listen.
celebrate your birthday.
I'm
All I
calling
know is,
timeout.
listen,
Boo!
He's like a
boo.
goddamn woman.
Uncle T
He's
doing
like a
the
fucking
Jeb Bush,
woman. He
please
brought his
clap
birthday
on
up
the
last
podcast.
week. He brought his
JSU.
birthday up this week.
Hey,
It's like a
mute G,
woman.
hey, mute G-Rizen. Mute G-Rizen. He
I'm
came
not
right
muting
in
him,
between
Uncle
me.
T. You don't know who
Right.
Norm MacDonald is. You're boo. No birthday for you,
And
buddy.
he
Go
spun into
celebrate
his
with
fucking
other
McDonald's.
people.
birthday.
Who
He
gives a
spun
rat's
into his
ass about?
birthday.
Listen, RPS
Happy
Heater
birthday.
25 is our new code. RPS Heater 25.
It
25%
should be
off
Uncle
your first
T's
payment.
birthday 25.
Yeah, we'll give you 25% off if you listen next week. Your first payment. RPS Heater 25, because I got to do Holden's job here because they're
He's
making
like,
fun.
we don't have a code, ding dong.
Yes, we do. I'm looking right at it. I
Who
got
gave it
before-
to you?
Listen,
Who gave
hold
it
on.
to you?
Holden, I got it before you did. So what
I
does
know,
that
so
tell,
who gave
what
it
does
to
that
you?
tell us about your status with the company? I got it before you got it.
Oh,
That's
you
our
know
new
what?
code.
What were you saying, Tony? I mean, Terry?
Are you gonna if you
Oh, he got muted. Oh, how did it happen? He got muted again. Oh,
If you
no,
mute
Uncle
me again,
T.
we're outta here.
He didn't know I had the magic bullet. He didn't know I had it. All right, you're back, Uncle T.
That
Yeah.
was great.
no,
Um,
but anyway, I don't know who that guy is. In all honesty, I really don't. I'm not even being funny. I don't know
Okay.
who that guy is.
So he was 61. He just died. He was the weekend news anchor. He was one of the funniest individuals ever. I must say, though, last week Title didn't know who Scarlett Johansson was. But you, I mean, Scarlett Johansson, he was a fetus when she started acting.
Scarlett, a guy or a
MacDonald was
girl?
like our age.
Title's
Scarlett,
fairly
guy or girl?
legal age. I mean, Title is what is Title? 22?
14.
22, I think.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson makes my teeth sweat. Damn, she's something
Oh,
else.
that Scarlett's a lady?
Yes,
Get the
sir.
fuck
Oh.
out of here. Are you kidding me, Uncle T?
Uncle T,
Yeah,
Uncle
he's
T, you
busted
probably
balls.
rubbed your damn
He
willy
got
to
me.
her. Don't even know her name.
He got me on that one. But
Do
anyway,
I get to talk about last week? I mean, G-Rizen, spent
I'd like to talk
20
about
minutes.
Norm MacDonald. He was a lot
JT's
more
talking
important
about
than you.
like breakfast places and get me hungry. Hey, I was like you guys. How bad was that though? I had 6 builds last week. 4.
So anyways, JT, I wanted to continue talking about Norm MacDonald. Can we please talk about Norm MacDonald?
And you're making my buddy Uncle T angry. I don't like it. I don't like
This
it.
this is gonna not be good for you.
I promise not to do it again. The rest
As long
of
as
the-
we don't have to hear about the birthday. If you hear the birthday, he's in.
Mute
the
him.
silent.
Hey,
Okay.
listen, I'm gonna remember that G-Rizen. I'm gonna remember that when you're out there
Well,
searching.
then we're gonna
for-
have to hear about it next week. So we're gonna hear about it 3 weeks.
No,
in
you
a
know
row.
what?
That's- I
Screw
don't
you
even hear
guys.
about my
And you know
woman's
what?
birthday that
JT
much.
didn't defend me. Screw you too, JT. I thought for sure you would take up for me, and you didn't. So
What-
I thought for sure you'd say, Holden, you guys are being a little mean to Uncle T.
I just said that. I just said that. Are you
No,
deaf?
you
didn't hear
didn't. You never said that.
Affect your does the mute affect your speaker as well?
It's hot in here. Oof.
Oh,
Anyways,
Oh.
Norm
All right,
MacDonald.
I won't talk about
you know what?
last-
Fuck it. Uncle T, what were you saying about last
No,
week?
I'm good now. You
R.I.P. Norm. You were awesome. We were going to talk about you, but Uncle T decided to hijack the show with his birthday.
RPS Heater 25. 25% off your
Why
first
don't-
payment.
Why don't we do an Uncle T code
No.
for next
It-
week?
No.
Uncle T B-Day 25.
Yeah.
Nope.
I'm gonna make the call. We'll get up there to the top
Oh,
of
that-
corporate.
Boy,
I
boy,
know
that'll
what-
move,
I know
move
a
it
big
along.
old
You
door
making
to
a call.
knock on. JT knows that rule. I know the harder the door, the more important you are.
Hey, G-Rizen, you making a call, that'll push the needle, let me tell you.
Yeah, you know what? It might. It might. You got your angle in, I got mine.
So again, probably should have muted Uncle T again. I did make a promise. I will not break my promise. So I will not break my
You
promise.
mute me again, it's a 3-man crew, I'll tell you that. So you do with
Now
that.
you're,
with
hold
what
on
you
a
want.
second. I just said I'm not going to mute you. Now you're
And I said
threatening to
if you
quit
do-
the show.
If you do, it's a 3-man crew, and
You're quitting the show.
I'm gonna call the suits immediately after this. If you mute me. And we're gonna have a discussion. You'll probably have to turn in your badge by midnight, but that's just
Man.
JT, do you think that's fair?
it'll be locked out of the site. It'll be sad. It'll be sad.
No, don't do it, Uncle T. Don't do it. So here's what we decided before the show. We're going to each talk about one team. All right. And then we can go back to last week and we can look forward to this week. but I want everybody to pick one team, and let's discuss them from a DFS side. All right, G-Rizen? I'm anointing you with the Lions. I think you could do it. You're the Lions insider. Uncle T, I asked 30 minutes ago. He said I was putting him on the spot.
I've got a team ready, Holden.
Okay, you got your team ready. Good to hear.
I'm trying to do my homework.
JT Hayes, let's start with your team. The team that plays 3/4 of hapless, laissez-faire football and then explodes for 3 touchdowns in 10 seconds. It's the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're always expensive, right? But it's the 3-man stack, dude. Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill, and they're going to go off a few times this year, and when they do, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah, it was a difficult choice, and I honestly went back and forth with, should I include the Chiefs? Should the Chiefs be on some of my main teams, some of the higher dollar Millie Maker teams, some of the 3-mans, $150 3 max? And I ended up deciding that in order for that team stack to work, they all had to go off, and there had to be no replaceable value. And of course, what happened is they all went off, and there was limited replaceable value. I think I saw a couple of teams do really well that had Kelsey and Hill without Mahomes. One of those teams had, I believe it was a guy that I talked about last week that I ended up playing very little of, which is Jameis Winston. Winston had a phenomenal game, 5 touchdowns, most touchdowns in a game of his career. Just they completely shellacked Green Bay. And it's going to be – I'm really excited, honestly. I looked at the slate earlier, and I was excited to see that the Chiefs were not on it, that the Chiefs were playing on Sunday night, because it's going to be tough. There are going to be games where these guys are going to underperform their expected value. And when you have them those weeks, you're going to be dead. When they go off like they did this week, like you said, I was watching that game. I was in first in the $5 football live final queue on DraftKings up until the end of the third quarter in that Kansas City game. And I'm like, okay, someone had Nick Chubb. And I was like, this really isn't a Chubb script at this point. And they just went off. And like you said, in about 7 minutes, those guys went from right around 18 to 20 points where they're not going to kill you at 8 to 8.3 to 8.4 per, to the mid-30s where you're just absolutely dead if you don't have at least pieces of that stack. So it's going to be tough. I think, I'll give credit to DraftKings and to FanDuel. They did a great job in pricing them appropriately and making you think about, all right, can I find a player or players that are going to beat their points per dollar and give me enough points to, if they do go into the 30s, I'm going to be okay. But I will say that's one of the frustrating things about this NFL season, I think, is going to be how you handle the Chiefs, because you said it, Holden, they're always going to be expensive. They're going to have a ton of good matchups. They play the Browns again, got a couple of good matchups in the AFC there. So it's going to be interesting.
I will play a Chiefs lineup just about every week. I just will, as long as Mahomes.
I think that's the way to go.
Last year, there's a few weeks I didn't because Mahomes was gimpy. Remember, he wasn't good. He wasn't healthy. And don't forget, Kyler Murray came out. Don't forget about him doing this last year, and he's another guy that got hurt. He was running around. He got hit. 100% Kyler Murray is out there, but 100% Patrick Mahomes, probably the best in the league there. G-Rizen, I want to ask you about the Lions, buddy, because JT Hayes was talking about DeAndre Swift. JT Hayes was talking about Hawkinson. I loved Hawkinson. It's a nice play. What are we looking at here going forward? Like, is Swift a total stud? Does Williams have room in that backfield too? Is there a wide receiver that we can trust? What do you want to do with this team going forward?
Man, I think the Lions are just a total mess, to be honest. They're going to be a team that we pass over most times. I mean, you might be able to use Hawkinson at tight end, but in reality, when most of them yards, which were basically just all run against they went to prevent defense in the middle of the third quarter. So Detroit just basically was just running up and down the field, and they got themselves back in the game. It just seems like Shanahan. JT made a comment about, just not being a very good coach. Seems like he can't close the games right. Like he gets nervous or something. Sometimes it's weird how he ends games. It's just kind of like Gruden last night. It's like, what the hell are these dudes thinking? Like, I mean, even the common guy who watches football knows these guys are fucking up. So But the Lions, I really do think Hawkinson is going to be good. But as the NFL season goes on, they're going to figure out the Lions. They're going to make them beat them in other ways. I think the Lions are going to use Swift quite a bit. I think they're going to end up using Williams as kind of like that power back. They're going to mix in Swift. And I think if Swift, is hot, they're going to let him run the ball, I think. But you asked me about wide receivers. I don't think it's there. I don't like any of the wide receiver plays. I don't think you're really going to get any kind of a boom type game from any of these guys throughout the year. And I think if you do, the percentage of that happening are really low to where you're not going to probably want to go there. So, but I think Hawkinson's going to be probably the most consistent piece of that offense, obviously. But I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble. I think they're going to be a team that's going to be down. They're going to be forced to throw. It's going to be teams, if a team's got a good pass rush. I mean, they were idiots. They literally draft this Penny Sewell at the top of the draft. And what do? They put him on the other side of the offensive line. Like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like, I really don't quite understand that. So, I get it. Maybe they think he's a great talent. He's easy to shuffle over there. But, damn, his first NFL game, you make him switch sides? Like, come on, give the kid a break. But, I think, in the NFL, you guys were talking about the Chiefs, man. It was such an easy bet when they were down 12 at halftime just to pound them to win the game. It was literally plus 225 on most of the sites at halftime. I mean, we've all seen that song and dance how many times? And literally they caught up in the middle of the third quarter. It was basically easy money. I think the Chiefs, when they're at home, they're just a machine. They're just going to stink and steamroll people. I think when they're on the road, that might be a little bit of where they might run into some trouble. But yeah, on the road, at home, I mean, that's almost like in terms of baseball, like a Coors Field when the Rockies are good. I mean, it's just that good of a type of like in DFS a few years back, we always said that's what New Orleans was. When there was games in New Orleans, we all said that was the Coors Field of football. Well, that was pretty much because the Saints were good too. So, but this weekend it was good because we had that Arizona game, and man, Arizona came out, had 5 sacks. They just pretty much kicked some ass that game. There was a lot of short fields in that game, which we want. Kyler Murray was running around, but you mentioned these guys getting hurt. I kind of took some shit yesterday when I mentioned on the baseball show, we were talking a little football, and I said I was afraid for Lamar Jackson this year. I think with them missing some running backs, he's going to try to take on a little too much of that running game. And that guy's got chicken legs, man. He's going to get busted and bent in half one of these times. I don't care how shifty he is. He's going to get rolled over on or something. I just don't like when quarterbacks are running around like that. I think it's dangerous. So I was even saying, man, if you got him in season long, hope he does well these first few weeks because you should try to dump him because over the season, especially now we added another week, I think it's a slippery slope for some of these guys.
All right. Uncle T, so looking forward to the team that you're going to talk about. But first, what is that code to sign up for RPS? Do you remember what it is?
I'm not going to mention the code. I'm not going to mention the code. I'm not going to continue to do your job.
Uncle T, 45.
I'm not going to continue to do your job, Holden. I mean, you take every Sunday and Monday off, or Sunday afternoons and Monday all day.
I work Sunday.
We barely got you in on Tuesday, so – all right, so I want to start.
RPS Heater 25. RPS Heater.
Just remember,
25.
if you mute me, I'm gone. Just so you know.
I told you I'm not going to mute you anymore.
Right, so
Maybe
shut up. Let me talk. We got some great analysis from JT and G-Rizen, like always. I want to start my segment here off with telling you, Holden, that you made a great point earlier, and I don't bring that up very often, but I do agree with your point that, in all honesty, we do need to have a Kansas City stack almost every week. And just to take a quick step back, so most of my teams I thought were dead with Mostert last week. I did play a 4 o'clock. It was their main slate, but 4 o'clock's a stack with Mahomes, Hill, and Landry. I ended up 15th in the $15 and ended up basically breaking even on a day where I thought I was going to lose pretty much everything. So to your point, I do agree with you. For the most part, I think we do have to almost take Big T won't like that analysis, but I do agree. They're just too hot. They're too good. The chances of them busting any week is probably not great. So I do like that. But as far as teams to look forward to, this week. I think one thing, too, to look at from week 1 and week 2, we get the biggest knee-jerk reactions, right? Whether it's on the good side or whether it's on the bad side, whether it's a team that came out on fire or just the opposite. They just completely flop. And I think you have a couple situations in week 2 where those come into play quite a bit. So you got – let's start off with Indianapolis with Big T's guy Carson Wentz. They were awful, right? They were completely awful. They got dominated for the most part that whole game against Seattle. So they come home or they stay home this week and they get a Rams team that just completely dominated the Bears on Sunday night. And, Indianapolis, they're a 4-point dog now at home against the Rams who looked really good. Stafford was just incredible in that game. So that's one. Another game, as G-Rizen mentioned it a moment ago, Tennessee laid an absolute egg. Now, was part of that Arizona the reason? Absolutely it was. Arizona they came out and really just kicked their butt. And then now they go to Seattle, who just won in Indianapolis. So let's see how Tennessee reacts, coming in heralded, from the good stud team they had last year. They got Henry, they got A.J. Brown, they pick up Julio Jones. Now, Julio Jones, after 1 week, is kind of, getting into an argument with Vrabel, right? I think Vrabel kind of talked maybe about I don't know if it was about his route running or he missed a route or something that cost him. I don't know, but
the dumb penalty. And he
that's
dumb.
Okay.
He called the dude out. He called Julio Jones.
That's what I'm saying.
Out.
So after week 1, you've got a little bit of drama there to where, again, now they got to pick up the pieces after getting embarrassed at home. They go, travel all the way across country to take on Seattle. I think that's a tough spot. And I'll mention one more. And this one isn't necessarily one where I think it's going to flop, but Green Bay laid, and you talk about laying an egg. Was it Green Bay or Tennessee, the two worst? I mean, it's pretty close. But Green Bay obviously gets the game with Detroit coming up this week where, again, I do think it's definitely a softer spot in the schedule after laying that egg against New Orleans, and they got Detroit. So, anyway, more or less what I'm getting at is, again, week 1 and week 2, you've got the biggest knee-jerk reaction in DFS. You get the biggest knee-jerk reaction in reality. So, it'll be interesting to see how these teams bounce back one way or the other.
Here's the deal, because Uncle T, that's a great segue. The Packers, the team I want to talk about. I have 0 reservations about them bouncing back this week. Aaron Rodgers, what has he got? 43 TDs to 8 interceptions his last 21 starts. Are you, like, G-Rizen, you're a Lions fan. Does he just always murder Detroit?
Actually, no, I think the Lions, I haven't looked, but for some reason it seems like they didn't win there for a long time. And I want to say they've won there recently, maybe in the last couple of years, but I don't call
They've won once in the last couple of years?
Yeah, but I'm telling you, it was like 20 years before they had won there.
Yeah, I know, but
like 3 or 4 years ago.
He usually torches them completely.
Well, here's the thing. I think Aaron Rodgers has got the I like get a sense from him. He's got the I don't give a shit attitude. Kind of, he's got his money. I think like JSU said last year, he was selfishly trying to throw a bunch of touchdowns to get himself paid. I think all that happened, and I mean, that was a pretty poor performance by those guys. He rightfully so. He admitted it, said it was basically his fault. I generally like guys in that position when they're, they've been embarrassed. They generally seem to be a little bit more focused. Aaron Rodgers is obviously one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So, you know what? I mean, Devontae Adams, what do you have? 5 catches, 60-some yards. I mean, he wasn't really involved. Aaron Jones. I mean, it was just a poor performance. But, I mean, let's be real. I mean, they played all of last year with no damn fans in the stands. So they played a lot of games that, it was easy for the quarterback to make calls. There was a lot of audibles that could have been done. This was one of the first games that they went into New Orleans. It was a totally different atmosphere than they've been used to in the last 2 years. So I think that did have a lot to do with, us fans didn't really realize it as much watching it because we, the sound was piped in all the telecasts. So how many times do you really see the crowd when you're watching the games? It's not something that you generally would pay attention to. So really more so of any sport during COVID, we really didn't notice the fans missing from a telecast, so to speak. Like basketball was so obvious, hockey was obvious, stuff like that, and baseball, especially like behind home plate all the time, you could see. But with football, I think that really did have a come into play this week. So last week, sorry, but it'd be interesting to see how it moves forward. But I mean, that's a tough atmosphere to play in a dome. So I think that could have had an effect. So we'll see what happens moving forward. I think, you look at teams that add like bigger pieces, like here you got Julio. Julio going down to Tennessee. They got so many pieces, so many weapons. I think it just takes the teams a little bit of time to get in rhythms. A lot of these guys didn't really all practice and play together during camp. So, the first few weeks are always kind of just to get a feel and for each other. And there are so many overreactions in fantasy football and, in the whole community. And, we always talk about try not to be that guy. It's easy to do, but I'm going to try not to overreact. But, man, there was some teams that look really good, though, that I thought, if I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and I'm Uncle T and I'm all them guys down there in Cincinnati area, I'm excited about my football team. I think those guys got, a really good offense they're putting together. There's just some things like that I was looking at, but I will say one thing. The Lions fans here, we all know how the movie ends this season. We all know it. We already understand what's going to happen, and that's Matt Stafford holding up the Super Bowl trophy at the end of the year. That's just the way it's going to be. So, that's what's going to happen. We're going to get kicked in the balls as Lions fans again, and Matt Stafford's going to be holding up that trophy. And the reason I say so, that defense is spectacular. If they ever get some sort of running game going, I would say that they're going to be one of the best teams in football. So if you guys can get them at decent odds, so I haven't looked at it recently, but I think the Rams are a good bet to be. I think the Rams and Chiefs or the Rams and Bills are going to be the way to go this year.
All right, so Rodgers isn't on the slate, JT, but going forward with the Packers, I think he's going to be just fine. He didn't go from the MVP to some jabroni after one game. He did. The body language is bad. He looked like he quit. He also complained about getting hit in the nuts and how that caused his first interception. But we've all been hit in the nuts before, and you just got to get it done. That's all I'm saying, Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams is still going to be a beast. Valdez-Scantling's going to do his thing. Aaron Jones will get it going. Not worried about these guys at all.
He's got a man bun, can't slam a beer, crying about his nuts. Man, that guy's a puss. Just saying.
JT?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the Packers. Obviously, great season individually for a number of these guys last year. And just a little bit of a surprising start, right? Came out extremely flat. You have to wonder how invested these guys are. They, with Rodgers in particular, him and the team's GM had this sort of very public spat throughout the offseason, and we'll just see what happens. I don't know. Doesn't seem like they're going to have a lot of challenge there. Perhaps the Vikings, I guess, the biggest challenge there in the NFC North. So be interesting to see there. But there are a number of teams, a number of different teams with new head coaches. That was certainly interesting to see. Urban Meyer, the Jaguars looked unprepared quite a bit. They absolutely got dusted. Again, they were on the road. They were in Houston, but Houston expected to be perhaps the worst team this year, perhaps one of the worst teams in the history of the NFL. And, they put on an offensive showcase there against the Jaguars. I talked earlier about the Falcons, Arthur Smith coming over from Tennessee. He revived Ryan Tannehill's career. Derrick Henry's a monster talent, but obviously his game planning really showcased him as well. And, you look at this game, and Cordero Patterson is a guy who's handling the ball out of the backfield a ton of plays. You've got a guy that you drafted with a top 10 pick in Kyle Pitts, and Hayden Hurst is on the field half the time, almost managing the tight ends the same way he did in Tennessee, which is, all right, I got three of them. They're all going to get on the field, and who knows who's going to see the most targets. And then just an inability to protect Matt Ryan. I don't want to overreact, but now the Falcons go into Tampa Bay, and it's hard to see them not getting destroyed in this game and starting off at 0-2. Really good matchup for the Buccaneers. We'll get into that here in a minute. So as always, week one, very interesting. One of the G-Rizen's points about Detroit, perhaps it's because San Francisco took their foot off the gas. But very interesting to see not just Swift. I think Jamal Williams also got to somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 26 DraftKings points. So something to keep an eye on and think about with respect to San Francisco is this going to be a team that gets a big lead and then kind of relaxes and gives that other team an opportunity? Because like you said, no one was on Detroit. Nobody expected this out of Detroit. The game being close, a complete surprise, 41-33, 70 points in that game, something like that, a really big surprise. So definitely something to keep an eye on. I don't expect those games to happen in Levi Stadium in San Francisco when the Niners are at home, but we'll see moving forward. And then the Chargers, pretty impressive start in Washington over the football team. They get a home game. We'll talk about this as well. They get the Cowboys coming into Los Angeles SoFi Stadium. That's a game that I think is going to be very, very interesting this coming weekend.
All right, so let's get into this, Uncle T. Let's get into week number 2. All right, week number 2. You're looking at the whole slate. Players in particular you're looking at, maybe games that you're looking at targeting to. Do you think Buffalo could bounce back this week, or the Rams a no-brainer, even though they're on the road in Indianapolis? Arizona, boy, after watching Kyler, I don't know how you go against him. Russell Wilson, Tom Brady. Give me a game or a couple players you're looking at right now, early in the week. Tuesday night we tape this for week number 2.
Yeah, I think one of the games that I looked at right away, and you guys just spent a good amount of time on the San Francisco 49ers, and rightfully so. They looked tremendous for 2.5, 3 quarters, and then let the pedal off a little bit and let the Lions come back. Still, a big win on the road. It was the Lions, but opening day win. Now they go to Philadelphia, who had the win in Atlanta that we talked about earlier. So you've got a couple teams here, San Francisco, going into Philadelphia. Now, are we going to buy in? And this is the reason I kind of like this game as far as kind of just an early week look is, Jalen Hurts looked pretty doggone good, and I'm not really a Jalen Hurts guy. He looked pretty doggone good in Philadelphia. You got to give it to them. They had a great game plan. They executed, and they got a nice win. Now they go home and, again, get the San Francisco team that is a couple running backs down now, but obviously still have plenty of firepower. But right now I'm seeing Philadelphia 3.5-point dog, and I got to be honest, I may change my mind later in the week, but I kind of like this 3.5 points from a betting standpoint. San Francisco is definitely, a really solid team, but I kind of like the home dog here as far as from a betting perspective. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, and you guys might have saw this or seen this as well. The early games next week, the early slate of games, there's definitely some solid games, but the 4 o'clock or on the East Coast, the 4 o'clock set of games is just, as far as totals, is incredible. So what you're going to have there is a couple things. Now, I'm always one that likes to have a couple guys, a couple bullets left in the gun, so to speak, later in the day. And I don't like to, play the entire team. Now, that might be right. That might be wrong. Sometimes Big T tells me, you don't necessarily have to look at it that way. But this week, if you're winning after the 1 o'clock slate for any reason, don't feel too great if you don't have many guys left, because these 4 o'clock games, there's a total of 51, 52, 55, 54. So I don't know what you guys feel about that, but I'm going to probably, as the week goes, try to start seeing how I can create and build teams based off of having some kind of, some kind of bullet left in your holster, so to speak. And what do you guys think about that? Am I off base, or is that, maybe a good way of looking at it?
Kyler.
No, I the one that stood out to me is, DK Metcalf let a lot of people down this Sunday in fantasy, had a great real life game, but now they go home and they get a matchup with the Titans. And that's a pretty intriguing game for me, just after seeing what the Titans gave up last year. Now they go all the way out to the West Coast. An early game that I have my eye on, at least one part of that game, obviously the Raiders with a stunning win last night. Now they go to Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger on DraftKings priced at just 5.9, almost a silly price for him there. But I mentioned earlier this Dallas Cowboys Los Angeles Chargers game as well. So going to be, and also, the Arizona game. So really, really interesting slate next week. Talked a little bit about the Bucs taking on the Falcons at home. The problem, I think, with that game, as we're talking about this on Tuesday night, is the Falcons look so impotent at home that it's hard to see that game being a shootout. I think Brady at 6.9 on DraftKings is an interesting value there in some of his pieces. Godwin is 6.6, but I think you're right, Uncle T. I think this is definitely a Sunday where you don't want to be winning a lot of money at 4:00. You want to be in that position where you've got 4 or 5, maybe even more guys left in your lineup. It just sets up as that kind of week with the games and the defenses in particular, lack of defenses on the West Coast this week.
All right, so I like that one. I like that call a lot. Let's G-Rizen. Let's talk about a couple other teams here. I'm actually going to throw one out at you, and that would be your favorite player, Tom Brady. Are we just buying into every game he's going to come out here and shred and, you know, throw 36, 40 times a game? Will he continue to do that and find Antonio Brown and frustrate anybody that rosters Mike Evans, and hopefully Godwin won't drop another pass, and now Gronk scored 2 times? What are you doing with Tampa this week, man? They went off in the primetime game. They going off again against Atlanta at home, one of the worst defenses they are going to face all year.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay this week actually has as of now, has the highest individual team total, 32.4, I see. But, I think Tom Brady is just he's just such a field general that I believe, when he needs to throw, he's going to throw. I don't believe if they get up, they're just going to continue to throw. I just think that they do have all the weapons to do whatever they want. Yes. I mean, between Godwin, Evans, and Brown, it is tough to say whoever, but it seems like he does favor. It's like he wants Antonio Brown to succeed. So, he does seem to jam it to him, but I saw a couple things with Dan Orlovsky on ESPN, and he was breaking down how one of the touchdowns that Tom threw to Gronk, that it was just a pure thing between the two of them. He yelled out some kind of call at the line, and Gronk knew to kind of delay his route, and then he ran, right down the middle, threw him a touchdown pass. So, I mean, Tom is just so good. I just fear that, they're just not going to – I don't think like this is the New England team with Randy Moss that they're going to want to throw up 40-some points every week. I don't know. I mean, if it becomes that, sure. But I think they're going to want to get Jones and Fournette and them involved a little bit more as time goes on. But, like Uncle T was mentioning, that 4:00, 4 games there. I mean, those totals are really high. So from a strategy standpoint, we always say try to eliminate the games and just kind of leave yourself a certain amount of games just to kind of pick some players through. And I don't see anything wrong with almost I don't want to say scratch off everything at 1:00, but if you probably just made a team with just 4:00 players, I think you could literally win the tournament with leaving off some of the guys at 1. So, obviously Tampa's going to be a big part of Atlanta is terrible. Just like JT said, I thought Ridley would be a little bit more involved than he was last week. It just seems like at this point, if you take Ridley away, that Atlanta is going to be in trouble. So I think teams are going to figure that out. They got to have some sort of other participant in that offense step up. But I think Tampa though is they're fun to watch. I mean, Tom Brady's a GOAT, but I just don't think that he's like a Patrick Mahomes that he's going to always put up, crazy type numbers.
Easy now. Don't be comparing him to Patrick Mahomes at this point. Come on. I know I let you carry on for 5 minutes and slobber all over your boy TB, but
listen,
Holden should know after doing these shows all last year, you can't give a softball question about Tom Brady to G-Rizen because it's going to be like 30 minutes later. JT and I are going to be asleep. You got to cut it off, G-Rizen.
Man, the dude won the Super Bowl after you guys gave me all that shit last year. He still came out and won the damn Super Bowl. He's the greatest quarterback of all time.
Uncle T just told you to shut up, and you're going to take it?
Yeah, hey, if I had the mute button, I'd hit it so his ass would leave. I would care.
I'm not going to do that again.
I wanted him to save some of his ammunition. We got a 17-week season. We got an extra week this year of the Wishbone. So I want you to say
so let's not talk about the team with the highest total on the slate. Good idea, Uncle T. Lee. Who'd have
Right.
thought
Hey,
that?
I do want to mention something about this Tampa Bay team, and you guys are right. I'm kind of giving G-Rizen crap about it, but no, this Tampa Bay team. The one thing I will say on that opening night on Thursday night. Now again, it's that knee-jerk reaction that we keep talking about. But boy, that defense was shredded. I was shocked at the fact they gave up 451 yards of offense to Dallas in Prescott's first game back. Now you can credit Dallas and you can credit Dak Prescott. But boy, you give up over 400 yards passing to Dallas. That definitely is an area of concern. At least in after 1 week, they had to come from behind at the end. I don't know what you guys think, but again, I don't think Arians is very happy about his defense giving up almost 30 points and 400 and something yards of offense. So, or against his defense is what I'm saying. So again, it's a knee-jerk reaction. They get Atlanta this week. Maybe they get things right, but I don't think they're going to be able to just try to out-track everybody or outscore everybody every week.
Well, they got a running game, and Ronald Jones fumbled last week. And, of course, Arians came back out and said, well, he's still our starter. Well, he played 6 fucking snaps, okay? The guy fumbled. This is all Arians does. This running back, that running back. I mean, which running back are we going to, JT Hayes? Or do you just have to avoid the whole situation? Because Uncle T's over here saying, hey, we don't want to shoot out all the time. That means they're running the football.
Yeah, I'm not saying they can't win shootouts. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't think they want to get in the business this year of just – again, I think it was an outlier is what I'm kind of ultimately getting at. I don't think Tampa Bay's defense, especially through the air, was that poor last year. I thought it was actually pretty damn good. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think it was an outlier is what I'm getting at.
It was just the pace of the game. Yeah, I think the big thing that people that they kind of forget about is certain teams like to play at certain paces. Like, I mean, San Fran, you guys were talking about San Fran and Philly, that game there, and I'm sitting there looking at that over-under at 50. San Fran likes to play methodical, slow. They did that the whole first half when they were beating the Lions' ass, and then they kind of just went to prevent. But the point is a lot of teams play slow. A lot of teams play quick. It's like Arizona. They play so fast, and Dallas has been playing pretty fast too. So I think they turned that into a tempo game. You really don't want to do that with – I mean, that was a fun game to watch, Dallas and Tampa. I think Dallas is going to get involved in a lot of games like that where it's going to be a quick tempo. There's going to be a lot of plays. I like to look at how many plays were in certain games, and you'll start to pick up, like, there's teams that just that don't have as many plays as others, and it's just so obvious. So I like to pay attention to stuff like that. So as the season goes on, kind of pay attention to how many offensive plays, how slow they play, and that'll help you, try to make decisions on teams that may be chalky or may not be chalky, but I think that's a pretty good thing to pay attention to.
All right,
Yeah,
JT Hayes.
The San Francisco game, for a number of reasons, pace as well as personnel. I mean, both these teams, maybe outside of Miles Sanders, obviously DeAndre Swift had success even late or early in that game, and then you had Jamal Williams. So maybe Sanders, but outside of that, I think you have no idea who San Francisco is going to use. I mean, the depth chart was released. Holden, you talked about it in a tweet about 15 minutes before game time. Maybe I'm off by a few minutes there, but
probably about 5.
Yeah. So I think that one, for the Dallas Tampa Bay game, you give a lot of credit to the Cowboys offensive line. I think you actually have to give some credit for Mike McCarthy, and namely to Dak Prescott for looking as sharp as he did. I think that obviously the Falcons do not have the weapons that the Cowboys have. I don't have faith right now just yet that they're going to, I did last week. That's all gone. I don't have faith that they're going to have the game plan to challenge the Buccaneers. I believe that game also is going to be in Tampa Bay, and that game also is in the later window. So it's going to be tough there in those games because you need, to be able to have a shootout, right? You need both teams to be going back and forth in order to be interested in pieces there. And I think in San Francisco, you're right. In that game in Philadelphia, it's going to be a slower game. You have no idea who's going to get, unless we see, injuries out of nowhere throughout the middle of this week. But even, it's a much different matchup for the Eagles against the Niners than against the Atlanta Falcons. So certainly something to be concerned about there. And then the problem with not liking any of the Buccaneers running backs is just how bad Atlanta's defense is going to be against the run. It's going to be that way against the pass. This is a team that's set up to give up a lot of points and hopefully overcome that. They don't show a lot of signs of being able to do that in terms of overcoming that offensively. But, you mentioned it, right? You have a situation with Arians where if a running back makes a mistake, he's out the rest of the game. That's a big risk on another 13-game slate here on Sunday, where I think for me, I'm going to be looking for those running backs that are going to be the bell cows, the running backs that are going to be given the bulk of the carries. Brings me back to a guy that I don't like to play a ton, but maybe Chris Carson in Seattle. Chubb is in a good matchup this week, 7.8. David Montgomery is going against the Bengals. And then I think you have to be at least interested in Najee Harris. Not a great performance, but 16 carries and 3 targets in week 1 against Buffalo. He now gets a much softer defense and a home matchup against the Raiders. Najee Harris at 6'3" on DraftKings is someone I'm going to be, at least as of Tuesday night, very interested in here.
All right, so here's just a couple things, JT Hayes. Let's stick with you here. Chargers, Cardinals, Cleveland running backs. I don't know how many people are going to be on the Chargers, though. We just talked about this 4:00 slate, but, I mean, we got guys on the LA side just licking their chops. Mike Williams is like, I can't wait to face the secondary. He's coming out and just taunting them, which is a good idea. Herbert does look amazing. Anybody that was worried that he wasn't going to throw as much, they have changed their offense around. Anthony Lynn is not there anymore. They figured out that Mike Williams was a very great target. Parham's the tight end. The running game, Eckler, Roundtree was the guy that came in behind him. Any thoughts on a Charger player or two? The Cards, just because Kyler Murray to D-Hop, you can mix in the other receiver, whoever you want. And then the Cleveland running backs get Houston this week. I feel like both have to be in play.
Yeah, I think so, especially the way that you saw them being used again, where they needed to try and come from behind. They brought Kareem Hunt in. Obviously a little frustrating if you have Nick Chubb. But in this matchup where you expect that the Browns, I believe that's a home matchup, right? That game is in Cleveland. I think you expect that they're going to be playing from ahead. Nick Chubb, 7.8, one of the best matchups on the slate. I like them a lot. I like David Montgomery. You talked about the receivers. I think this is a DK Metcalf week. I think this is one of those weeks where at 7.6, he's probably too cheap in a home matchup against the Titans. It's a good matchup for both Godwin and Mike Evans. Great bounce back spot for Mike Evans here. You saw Brady do this last year where you'd have, and I think it was maybe G-Rizen that talked about this. He wants Antonio Brown to be successful. Antonio Brown is always going to get a bunch of targets, but then he sort of rotates Godwin and Evans. I think you'll see more Evans this week, especially in a matchup where the Falcons secondary can't cover anyone. And then on the Cincinnati side, Jamar Chase still priced down at 5.0. Low ownership. Everybody was worried, always dropping passes in practice, and it absolutely just doesn't matter. And Keenan Allen with a little bit of a quieter game on Sunday, now that home matchup against the Dallas secondary. Very, very intriguing there. And tight end, a couple of plays. George Kittle, 6'4". We saw that the tight ends, even though they didn't have ceiling games, I mentioned the 8 targets for Pitts. Hayden Hurst, a decent game as well at his price point. George Kittle, 6.4 for San Francisco. Have to believe there's going to be a little bit more competitiveness in that game. So interesting week overall.
Uncle T, let's get your thoughts. Anything the Chargers, Cardinals, Cleveland, and just a couple of, you know what? Screw with my thoughts. What do you got here? Who's a couple guys you're looking at early in the week? Anything that you circled?
Well, talking about the Chargers game, and these guys bring up great points. JT, broke it down really nicely. But I'm not necessarily, after week 1, I know it's early, but I'm not necessarily a believer that Dallas is going to be any good. I know they played well on Thursday. I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. They were right there at the end, ready to knock off the Super Bowl champs, and they didn't get it done. But, you're going to go cross country now and go take on a Chargers team that looked really good, like you mentioned, Holden, in week 1. And I'm a believer in this Chargers team. You mentioned getting rid of that head coach was just what they needed. I thought that guy was terrible. Herbert is one of my favorite quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in this good group of young quarterbacks in the league. So I know I've talked a little bit tonight about a couple games I like from a bet standpoint, even though this is a DFS show. I really kind of like this Chargers right now. They're -2 at most places, 2.5. I really like the Chargers here in this spot. And, again, I get it. Dallas has got the Coopers and the CD Lambs. And, again, Dak looked good. Zeke is an absolute train wreck right now, right? I mean, he just, he can't get out of his own way. I mean, he's just stealing money right now from the Cowboys, but that'll be another topic for another day. But you talk about the Chargers. Yeah, I do. I really like this Chargers team. It's going to be one at that 4:00 time slot that I really may try to target. I do think Arizona, Kyler Murray was fantastic. I had him in my other build that didn't have Mostert last week, and it was really close to the cash line. But yeah, he's I mean, you can't go wrong with a Kyler Murray stack almost every week now either. You can run it back with, again, Hopkins, and he's got a couple targets out there now with Rondale Moore and A.J. Green, so you can run that back. And the other team you mentioned was Cleveland. I think Cleveland is going to be pretty good. I know they're in the division with my Bengals, but, they basically had the Chiefs beat. And I get it, G-Rizen. The Chiefs did what they had to do. They came back in the second half. We thought they would. They did. They did have a couple things go their way. They had the block punt when the guy, botched the snap back to him that helped. Again, that's part of football. What I'm saying is I do think Cleveland is pretty good. The 1-2 punch with Chubb and Hunt is really good. And, again, I'm kind of a believer in Cleveland, as crazy as that sounds. So I do think they bounce back in a big way this week against Houston. And even though that's a really hefty number in week 2, I think Cleveland covers that number against Houston easy this week. So yeah, those are my two takes on that, Holden. I really like this Chargers team. I'll be looking at them from a DFS standpoint in that 4:00 time slot. And I do like the Cleveland Browns to bounce back in a big way.
All right.
Oh, one other thing, Holden, I'm sorry. Real quick, one other thing, and I know we're going a little off topic, but I wanted to talk about it only because we discussed it quite a bit in week 1 last week. But Kyle Pitts, right? So we talked about, I think G-Rizen talked about Calvin Ridley and how awful, they had a good game script, right? They had a really good game script. They were throwing quite a bit. They were behind most of the game. So Kyle Pitts, he's 4,400, I think it was, or 4,100 last week. He gets 8 targets, 4 for 31. His price goes up to 5,200, and now he gets a matchup against Tampa Bay. So again, I know we're kind of getting a little bit off of, the position by position type thing, but what do you guys think about Kyle Pitts? Is it just, do you think he'll carry the ownership in week 2 with the $800 increase that he did last week? I say no.
Yeah.
No, I think everyone is going to be off of the Falcons in this matchup after what we saw out of Arthur Smith, out of the game plan, out of Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, the mobility just isn't there. There was one play in particular where they got down around the 2-yard line, and it seemed like it was a design play for Ryan to try and do a run around the tackle. And he got like 3 steps, and there was just a wall in front of him. So he threw it high into the stands. You got to scheme for this guy. I don't think they have the personnel on the offensive line to help Matt Ryan be successful at this point is my biggest fear coming out of week 1. Again, I don't want to overreact because they do have some nice weapons offensively. But I did note that, Uncle T, that he only went up to 5-2. We did get the 8 targets. Obviously, I think if you're Arthur Smith, you're thinking, first of all, I expect a negative game script in terms of they're going to be behind and they're going to have to throw the ball. But I do have to go back and take a little bit of a look and see how many snaps did Hayden Hurst get as opposed to Kyle Pitts, because we saw Hurst in the game a little bit more than I expected. I expected Pitts to be
that? I got it.
Yeah, I mean, but more to the point, and I'll take the number here in a second. I expected Pitts to be featured, and he wasn't. He wasn't a feature guy. It wasn't him, and it wasn't Ridley. It was an interesting mix there, and I think something that obviously they'll try and correct, but definitely a tough matchup to do it.
Yeah, Pitts was out there 68%, Hurst 60%. They were out there at the same time a lot.
Yeah. So there could be weeks where both of them may be, viable depending on, what the slate looks like. Obviously, outside of Ridley, I mean, I don't want to play Zacchaeus. I mean, I don't really want to play Russell Gage all that much. So I would think that maybe you're going to see the target share be split among Ridley, Pitts, and then Hurst. So I don't know, though. I mean, this team looked bad. Matt Ryan looked slow. The offensive line looked terrible. The defense looked every bit as porous as it was last year. And with a quicker pace, this is why the Falcons slowed down at the end of last season. It's because they just couldn't keep up with teams. And they figured, hey, if we run fewer plays, we'll have a chance to stay in games. I don't know what we're going to see here. There's no reinforcements coming for that defense or O-line.
G-Rizen, what do you got? Some final thoughts as we wrap the show up, my friend?
Yeah, I just think I think what people, you guys are talking about Pitts, and I'm sitting here thinking, I think the rookies didn't get a lot of run across the board in the NFL just because there's a lot, I mean, especially at tight end, there's a lot of blocking assignments that they're responsible for. And I really think going back to the fans, again, being in the stadium made a big difference with some teams. So I think that some of these head coaches were playing a little safer. I think as time goes on, Pitts is going to get 80%, and, probably get up there in that range of snaps. I think Hayden Hurst will start to fade off a little bit, and they'll start putting a guy like Pitts in that. But that's one of the reasons why I didn't play Pitts, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't really want to play some of the other rookie running backs and stuff like that. I just think that the coaches were going to try to be a little bit, safer, closer to the vest, so to speak. So I think that has a little to do with it. I think, really, I mean, in the NFL, it's about matchups, and I think guys are going to take advantage of certain situations that they maybe not have seen before. And I think then week one is, they're always going to attack rookies. We always hear how Belichick never loses to a rookie quarterback and blah, 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 because they know what to throw in front of these guys. So, I think it's just a learning curve for the first few weeks. So, but I really do think Pitts is going to be really good, and Atlanta needs him. Ridley needs Pitts to be good. But, it'd be interesting. So this week, in the NFL, though, like you guys said, I think I'm going to be concentrating that 4:00 time slot and going to be looking at that quite a bit. I think I actually like that Seattle game a little bit more. If you guys look at that offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, he likes to play fast tempo. I think that's going to fall right into Russell Wilson's wheelhouse. I think Wilson's going to have a really fun time this year. Good time. He's got the receivers. The only thing is, like we mentioned, it's going to be Lockett, DK. Generally, they both don't do well together, but I like that game. I think Tennessee's going to have to play up tempo. Henry again. I don't like to play Henry till later in the season, so I think next week you're going to see a lot of passing in that game. That's one of my favorite games this week. But as the week goes on, you know what? All of us at Run Pier generally we put out a lot of different articles. There's all kinds of videos. So things may change, but as of now, I think 4:00 is where it sounds like most of us are going to live next week. So should be a fun slate to watch.
I'll throw one more. You know what? I bet you they're going to be a little more popular as the week goes on. We're just kind of talking about it. Nobody else has had their thoughts out there. We're basically giving everybody's first thoughts. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams against Jacksonville. They each played 33 out of 66 snaps, both of them 50%. I mean, this is a true.
They should get another by all rights a good game script,
yep,
right?
They are a true timeshare. Yeah. And Melvin Gordon, I actually like Melvin Gordon a little bit. The veteran with Fangio.
You guys think Urban Meyer? You think Urban Meyer wants to take that USC job, Holden?
He's Dunsky, dude.
I said before the year, I think BigT was on the other side. And I do want to make one last point, Holden, on that Dallas Chargers game, if I could. But I'm on the other side with the Urban Meyer. I think he'll be 2 years and under. He'll be out. Like within 2 years, he'll be out of the NFL. I just don't think
it's this year.
Well, I mean,
he's not going to make it past this year.
He's not going to make it, man.
Yeah. But one point, if I could, just real quick. I know we're trying to get on to the other segment or maybe closing thoughts, but and I got this from the earlier show with Hoop and Title and Mangone. So. Michael Gallup, and I'm bringing this up because, again, I mentioned earlier that I think I really like this 4:00 game with the Chargers and the Cowboys. Michael Gallup got hurt, so that's going to elevate Cedric Wilson at 3.1K back into the mix, right, into Gallup's role. So if I'm liking, again, on a Tuesday here, 5 days prior to Sunday, if I'm thinking kind of along the lines of maybe having a stack there, and I want to run it back. Obviously, the main run backs on Dallas is, if I think the Chargers are going to get the lead too, is going to be CD or Cooper. Well, what about maybe one of those guys and then throwing a Cedric Wilson in? So I'm just bringing it up because, again, I don't want to steal it from their show, but I definitely think it was a good point. I did a little more research on it. He's definitely going to go into that slot where Gallup is. He's going to be out 3 to 5 weeks. So I think it's interesting if you're looking at that game like I am.
I like that game. I like that game a lot. JT, final thoughts, my friend. Are you okay? Are you doing all right? How many beers in are you before you give your final thoughts? I mean, because there are times in the show you go a few minutes without talking. You gotta keep yourself busy. So what have you been doing during those times, JT Hayes?
Man, they're cooking fillets downstairs. I've been going out and smelling that and getting excited for dinner here. It's only 8:35 and there's some baseball on. I'm watching my teams. I was on the Yankees and Cole tonight, like a lot of people, but I also had the one Marlin that's hit a home run, so that feels pretty good to me. And I think final thoughts for me are we've talked a lot about not overreacting, and then also talked, myself included, about some overreactions, right? And I think that, as this week goes on, obviously our player pools will whittle down a little more. But something G-Rizen said, and I said this in closing on our Saturday Off the Chalk show, which was this DFS for NFL is all about matchups. It's all about, there's two things I look at more than anything else. One is the matchup. Which defenses can you rush against? Which defenses can you pass against? And looking at that first. That seems pretty simple, but it works out pretty well. The second thing I look at are underpriced wide receiver ones. So who are the top wide receivers on any team that are significantly underpriced for their volume? So if someone's going to get 8 to 10 targets and they're in that 5K range, and trying to avoid those situations. You just talked about one with Denver where it's a full timeshare. It's a great matchup, but maybe it's a situation where, there's not enough work there for either one of those guys to hit a true ceiling on a 13-game slate. So those are things that I'm going to be looking a lot at this week. Obviously, that 4 o'clock window looks incredible. I think from a defensive standpoint, and it was G-Rizen that just talked about Bill Belichick and rookies. Guess what? He gets to take on Zach Wilson in the Meadowlands, MetLife, this week. And some interesting defensive matchups. Pittsburgh, good matchup at home against the Raiders. Miami, interesting matchup at home against Buffalo. We know that as good as Josh Allen is, when he has to sling the ball around, he can be a little bit erratic. And then, Seattle, home matchup against the Titans, fast-paced game. They did not look very good. Some interesting spots next week.
So, JT Hayes, what are you doing for the rest of the night in South Carolina somewhere?
South Carolina, Garden City, South Carolina, baby. I'm going to have some beers. I'm going to watch some baseball. I'm going to spend time with my family. And it's going to be a great night. It's already been a great night because I got to spend some time with you guys.
Absolutely.
And just looking forward to it. Uncle T, I'm not gonna ruin the surprise, but I've got a special package on the way for you. Talked about
that's how you bring good mojo, JT.
I know.
I always bring the good mojo. Talked about the wine club that I'm a member of. So I looked at a couple of different pieces that I thought would be up to the standard of a man of your importance and taste. And
Holden, are you listeing to this, by the way?
No,
I'm sending you some Boone Farm.
City.
I'll be quiet. Let him finish.
I'm going to do everything I can to get it there on Tuesday, so you can get a little taste. Maybe share it with the family, with Big T, with Jordan. Love for Jordan to have a glass of this stuff.
Yeah,
Uncle T, you enjoy your Mad Dog 2020, and Holden and I will eat our edibles, and we're going to have a good time. What do you say, Holden?
Oh, I mean, that's a given, my friend. You didn't have to ask me to get in on that. What do you say? Of course I'm in. And, I hope Uncle T gets a little inebriated because you only turned 60 once. And I think
I look good for 60, though, Holden.
Really good.
I look better at 60 than you do at 55. I can tell you that right now. And I can outrun you. There's you can't beat me at golf. You can't beat me at
golf. You would beat me.
at?
If you beat me running, I would
Yeah, running. I got a hard pass with running. I'm not gonna. The only thing I run to is the fridge.
Track on that. You just said you could beat him in a sprint.
Oh,
I'd whoop your ass. That's all I do.
I'd try
is sprint
it, but
now.
I think you. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Holden's a guy that runs a lot.
I sprint.
The police.
I sprint.
But, I mean, you know, it is what it is.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I got somebody in my ear here telling me to plug our Gem Finders.
All right.
Article. So
is that Tony?
Don't worry about it. You want always
Tony's
the nuggets on
right
where I'm
there
getting
for
my
the whole
info.
thing, and he's not going to come over. Are you kidding me?
Don't worry about where I'm getting my info from,
He's
Holden.
not going to stick his – see, basically you've been regurgitating your nephew's Cliff Notes.
All I know is, look, hey, I will say, look,
Uncle T.
hey, we're trying to get off. JT's on vacation, so I want to mention the gym. So AP, we've got Coop, our boy Coop, myself, JT, Schneider, Captain, and Gary put together our Gem Finders article. So every morning, I should say, there'll be 2 to 3 games that we'll be given a quick capsule of the game, some DVOA stats, and then we'll have a couple Gem Finders from a DFS standpoint. But it's something that's really, I think we got a good traction on it week 1. A lot of people like them, and just kind of keep an eye out for that. And the last thing I will say, Friday's golf match, we got me, Big T, Mangone, and Rubio Dimes. And I'm going to put something out on Twitter tomorrow, me or Rubio. Me and Rubio is going to have a little bit of money on this him and I heads up. So stay tuned. You might be able to slide into my DM or Rubio's DMs if you think I'm going to beat him or if he thinks he's going to beat me. But I'm just throwing that out there. We've got a little bit on the line.
Man,
you think you're going to
win?
Golf
courses got aerated greens yet?
I'm going to his home track, and it's a nice course. I will
Aren't
say
the
that.
greens aerated?
Aren't
the greens aerated?
How does that even mean? It's September. Why would the greens
All right,
be
G-Rizen, go back, eat some edibles, buddy. We're done with the show.
They aerate the greens after Labor Day around
you
here.
do final thoughts. We'll be on.
Yeah,
if you do final thoughts, we'll be here for 10 more minutes. Let's just get the fuck out of here.
That's a shot right there where you could have muted him.
No, I'm not going to mute poor G-Rizen. I have more respect for him than to do that.
And you got muted twice.
I promise you'll not be muted again until at least week 6. Okay?
Listen, let's let JT go have some fun on his vacation. The man wants to go eat. He's smelling fillets and shit. Yeah. Let's cut it short so the man can go enjoy his vacation. JT, thank you for joining us on your vacation. You're a true trooper. And Holden, you know what to do now.
Simon, get us out of here.
Simon, get us out of here.
Simon's not even here.
Taking the victory lap here with our boy Big T. Massive takedown PGA last night. Shipped the Millie.
The Twins got the job done for our boy Hoop. Won him $100K. Won him a live final seat.
JSU shipped $200K on, I think, just $1,000 worth of entries. He had a monster night.
Anytime we see members crush like this, we're excited.
Last night, one of our most loyal subscribers from the beginning, Jay Love, took down $20K.
I want to give a shout out to Redmen, who won over $50,000 on opening day.
Blind Bandit took down the $100,000 top prize.
We had someone win a live final seat.
It was one of those days where it's like going 5x or 10x on your money. It wasn't enough to get enough love in the Discord.
Record 62 took down the Millie Maker.
I don't even know if this heater's ever going to end.
Some of these other sites are just boring you to death.
I like how other sites nickel and dime you for every penny they can get.
Tons of the members have given tickets and membership on their own. Like, we're not telling them to do that. They're just doing it for good mojo.
You love to see it. We love the good mojo.
And the mojo is what the mojo is.
I give you credit for still having that happen. We appreciate it.
Wait till we ship tonight. I might never take it off.